Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Monday morning meditation. Happy Easter, happy Passover weekend, happy spring celebration. Good to be with you as always. And I think I'm going to do less talking today and more meditating. One of the things that has been standing out to me over this weekend is um, just looking at the anxiety loop that our brains can get into, where we have our story and we can feel like things are going according to our story, and then something happens and it disrupts our story, and we get upset about it or we get anxious about it. But ultimately, our story is just in our imagination versus anything we can control on the outside. And what happens in our brains is that because our mind is creating that story and our brain is responding to the story, sometimes more than it's responding to what's happening really in the world, that our system gets set up for the outcome of that story versus being able to flow with what's happening on the outside. And, where we have other human beings involved or situations that are out of our control. And our brain gets conditioned to think that we are in control of any of that that's happening, and we're not. But we are in control of being present and rolling with whatever is happening. And the best way to do that is to be not in our heads throughout the day, which is a huge practice. And it's one of the benefits of our meditation practice, is because our meditation time is intensive practice of not being in our heads. But then we can take that perspective of, I'm not listening to what's going on in my mind. I'm not getting attached to the story, or at least being able to catch ourselves when we're in our story. It's like, oh, that's my story. So and so just did such and such, and that went against my story. And now I feel upset about it. Or, now I feel anxious about what's going to happen next because that's not how the story was supposed to end. And, if we think of when we watch movies and we think, oh, I know how this is going to end, and then there's a surprise ending, or we're watching the same old movie format where it's like, okay, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, the good guy's going to win, the good guy's going to get the romance, and everything's going to turn out well. But think about the times when you've watched a movie where that doesn't happen. It's like, oh, it's so unsatisfying, or it can be. So same is true about the stories that we're creating in our heads. And the more we can just not believe those stories that are being retold and retold in our minds over and over again, the more we can be present and available to move in the present in whatever direction we need to. And sometimes that direction is just not doing anything at all and just watching how things are playing out on the outside and being willing to listen for the right movement. Wish I was perfect at that. I'm not, but I sure am all for moving in that direction more and more. So one thing to keep us out of the loop is having a mantra or using our breath. And I thought for today, even though I said I wasn't going to do a lot of talking, and here I am still talking, I thought we could just return and revisit our pure air in, everything else out exercise. It's just so relaxing. And anytime we can find ourselves in our story throughout the day, we can grab onto that breath. Oh, there's my story. Pure air in, everything else out. And we're going to let go of that story too, because even if it's a good story with a wonderful ending, a wonderful outcome, it's still out of our control. And we want to be open to the best possibility given all the circumstances. And we can't possibly know what that is, but we can flow with what it is as we flow with our breath, as we flow with our own presence. So that's what we're going to do today, just with that in mind, of just letting go of all of our stories. And this pure air in, everything else out is a Mooji meditation. So I am borrowing that. It's certainly not It certainly didn't come from me, but I sure appreciate it with you. So I invite you to just relax in your chair, get comfortable so that you can, as much as possible, forget about your body. Just be, just let it melt into where you're sitting. And if you're sitting in the same place that you normally sit in for meditation, you may feel that energy just lifting you. We create that energetic space when we are meditating at the same time, day by day, or if you're sitting down for this meditation once a week, at the same time, same place, you are setting that energy to support you whenever you sit there, to let go of your story. Let me take a couple of deep breaths to transition into a quieter space. And we begin with that calm, still breath. Breathing in and out. We use our statements. Pure air in, everything else out. Pure air in, everything else out. Pure air in, everything else out. Use those words within your mind as a mantra, as a guide for your breath. This is really a guide for your mind. Pure air in, everything else out. You might just feel pure air like a cool breeze or a warm breeze, whichever you need, moving in right through the full front of your body, breathing pure air into every cell, every organ, every muscle, every bone, and everything else out. All impurities, impurities in consciousness, impurities in thought. That's not a religious thing, that's a anxiety thing. An anxious mind never gives us true answers. And that's what makes it impure. It colors what we see with our story instead of being present in our hearts, openness, awareness, wisdom. So we breathe that pure air in, everything else out. Pure air in, everything else out. Let that come right through you. Pure air, releasing everything else as you breathe out. Pure air in, everything else. When we're identifying our story that goes through the mind over and over and over again in every situation, maybe the story has different characters, but the bottom line is storyline is always the same. Our anxiety holds on to our negative thought patterns or false beliefs and tries to protect us from them. But since our negative beliefs aren't true about who we are, we're protecting ourselves from nothing and creating a lot of worry in the process. So it's okay to let it go, and it's safe to let it go as we breathe out pure air in, breathing out all the stories. Pure air in, everything else out. We don't know our future, but our anxiety makes us think that we do. And that part of the brain can make us feel excited and happy about the story we think is coming true, or terribly afraid. Neither one are true. The outcome of any situation will be what it is. Why not be present with it? So we breathe pure air in and breathe out our predictions about the future. Pure air in, everything else out. Pure air in, everything else out. That anxious part of the brain can make us obsess over things in the past as well. Worried that we shoulda, coulda, woulda done things differently. Trying to make ourselves do it better next time. And that becomes part of the story as we look out into our world. Self-forgiveness is for another topic, but we can still see the falseness of that story looking at the past. We've already learned. We've already changed. So any circular thinking about the past is unnecessary, unhelpful, and we let that go. We breathe that pure air in and all of the past out. Pure air in, everything else out. Pure air in, everything else out. No past, no future, just now. Your air in, everything else out. Your air in, everything else out. And you might notice that your nervous system loves this space. There's peace, there's a greater sense of safety. Air in, everything else out. Your air in, everything else out. A beautiful gift to be able to give to ourselves, letting go of our story, past, future. Positive outcome, difficult outcome, whatever our story that replays in our minds tends to be. I'm not okay, or they're not okay. All stories. To be able to see that and practice, letting go. Even when it's hard to let go, so worth it. So if you can continue to meditate today, I invite you to do so. Keep with that simple mantra, pure air in, everything else out. And if you need to get up and go about your day, I invite you to take this mantra with you, as I will, for today, for the week. Anytime you catch yourself in your story, just stop and say, oh, that's just the story. I breathe instead pure air in, everything else out. Thank you for being here today. I invite you, if you are moving out of your meditation time, just take a couple of deep breaths to let your mind body system know that you're switching gears again, and feel your feet on the floor and your energy moving throughout your body. Sometimes after a meditation time, it can be really out there, and we've got to regather our energy so that we can get our bodies going again. So have a wonderful week. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye for now.